Hi there, I'm nicodehaan, and welcome to Living a Primal Lifestyle, where we explore a return to a more balanced and natural wild world.
To recover our natural health and regain our rights and freedoms. I'm Ellen Dahan.
This beautiful day in Durango, Colorado. Right now it's 48 degrees with a low of 35, high today of 54, and it's partly cloudy, but the sun is out.
Sun is out.
Yeah. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. There's the ticker right there. Hit the like button, hit the follow button, help our channel grow. And we also post on LinkedIn and Facebook for your convenience. And if you hit the link below
Odysee.
Pardon me?
And Odysee.
Yeah, we're on YouTube and Odysee. If you hit the link below the show notes, you can maximize your nutrition with products from Mother Earth Labs. These are the products that we use to supplement our diet. Please check that out. And you can always reach us at nicodehaan@me.com or leave a comment below in the description for YouTube or Odysee or even Facebook and LinkedIn. And we'll get back to you on that. And we look at mainstream news stories about anti-aging, natural health, history, climate, as well as our freedom. And we do our own analysis. All topics for today's show are in the show notes listed below the video in the description. And we were at Observer Ranch this weekend.
What an adventure. Wow.
Yeah, that was really cool, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was.
You don't know what the Observer Ranch is. Let me put up a little photo of it. Oops.
No whoops.
Whoops.
No whoops. There you go.
There it is right here. And it's in Penrose.
Colorado.
Yeah, it's about halfway between Penrose and Cannon City. And
that's between Denver and Colorado Springs. Are not familiar.
Yeah, it's just kind of the west. Of Colorado Springs. And it's sitting at about 6,400 feet, I think, on an elevation in a plateau there. And it's a complex.
It's a campground. It's an education center.
Right.
It's a resource. They have a very large library and resources for anybody interested in anything from organic gardening to raising chickens to being your own blacksmith and lots of, all the other things you would think of.
Yeah, there was a grand opening a couple of weeks ago, and then we went to the talk, which was called Kings of Catastrophe, hosted by Ben Davidson and a special guest, Dr. August Dunning. If you don't know who Dr. August Dunning is, he was the designer of the International Space Station.
And head of the program for a number of years.
Yeah, and he's a professor at Caltech, and now he's retired and doing a lot of talks around the nation. And he was a special guest at the ranch talking about Kings of Catastrophe, talking about the 12,000-year cycle.
And talking about cosmology.
Talking about cosmology, talking about health, everything. Yeah.
Yeah, it was fascinating. Absolutely.
A lot of events at Observer Ranch. And of course, we met Ben Davidson about 8-9 years ago, I think it was. 2017, I think it was.
Might have been even earlier.
Might have been
whenever his first book, The Weatherman's Guide to the Sun.
Yeah, we bought The Weatherman's Guide to the Sun. And we were living in Clearwater at that time, Clearwater, Florida. And I think he just happened to be in town to visit his in-laws.
His in-laws were spending a couple of weeks on Clearwater Beach.
Okay.
And that was just about 1.5 miles from where we were.
Yeah, and he called us up on the phone and said, "You mind if I stop by and drop off the book?" We thought that was pretty cool. And he spent a few hours with us. Yeah. So we sat there on the back porch just chatting and going over some of the projects that he was involved in. And that's how we got to meet him. And then when we started 2017, I started coming out to Colorado for our Bigfoot adventures.
Mm-hmm.
And in 2017, I think it was when we met Kat and Ben in Colorado Springs.
We started making sure we stopped in Colorado Springs every summer and had dinner with them.
Yeah, so every year we saw them. And of course, when we moved out here in 2021, we've seen them a couple times a year. And this was a good opportunity to not only see Ben, but also to visit the ranch again and meet Dr. August Dunning, which was a really amazing thing.
Yeah. And I also served as chairman of the board for the Little Spark. which is the education and resource arm of the ranch.
Yeah. So, the interesting thing about the Observer Ranch is that you can book events with them. There's a learning center there. There's a picture of that. Let me get that up there. You can see there's the learning center. Of course, beautiful views. They have a lot of different facilities there in the conference area. And one of the things that they do is rent out. You can bring your RV.
Yeah, they have a series of different options. They have cabins. They have temporary parking for RVs with hookups.
Yeah.
And then you can actually purchase the exclusive right to use a particular site on a leasehold basis.
Right.
And that becomes your exclusive.
Yeah, and you can build your own little structure on
You
there.
can build a structure, or you can permanently park an RV, or you can put a camper there, or whatever you want to do, and come and go. And you can also rent out your space to somebody outside if you want to.
Yeah, so a lot of things going on there. Of course, one of the things that Ben has been doing is the space weather news. He has a little update every single morning, and he never misses. So for the last 10 years, I've been listening to Ben on space weather news.
It's just a 5-minute thing.
Yeah, it just gives you an update about space weather and how the sun affects earthquakes and things that are going on.
Yeah. And what the sun's doing on a regular basis, because you have your coronal mass ejections, you have your plasma discharges, and you have what do you call it? The space dust with solar winds.
Yep.
And all of those things affect all of the planets within the solar system.
Yeah. So when I first started listening to Ben every morning, and then listening to some of his videos, particularly the 12,000-year disaster cycle. And the interesting thing with Ben, I should mention, is that he documents all his stuff from scientific papers that are published
around the world.
Yeah, all around the world from different countries. Mm-hmm. All these scientists, physicists, experts in different fields of space, weather, sun, earthquakes, and how all these things kind of work together. Are connected. Mm-hmm. And one of the documentaries is the 12,000-year cycle. And it's about, let's see, an hour and a half. But it gives you all the information you need to know about the theory of the Earth disaster documentary. And, it's not just Ben saying this. When we talk to Dr. Dunning about this, and he lectures about this, you kind of start to understand that this is not something that's just made up. It's something, I think modern society pretty much puts out the meme that, well, we've only been civilized for about 5,000 years, 3,000.
We're not civilized yet, so I don't know what the problem is.
That's a good point too. But civilization started with the Mesopotamia, and then the Egyptians came shortly after that, maybe 3,500 BC. Mm-hmm. And before that, we were pretty much hunter and gatherers. And I think now in the news, there's more and more evidence coming out that we're a lot smarter than that, and things
there was a lot more than hunter-gatherer society, and that hunter-gatherer society was not primitive.
Right.
It could be very complex and sophisticated.
Yeah, especially if you look at some of the sites in Turkey now, and Mesopotamia area, Karahan Tepe and
Göbekli Tepe.
Yeah, those sites.
The megalithic structures all over the world, including Peru, including Easter Island, including what is it? I'm blanking on the.
Well, also, if you're looking at some of the new technology like the LiDAR, that's exposing all these ruins in Middle America, Central America, Mexico. That's hidden by the jungle.
There's
Thailand, China, certainly.
Japan.
Yeah. So the conventional theory is that, we started 3,500 years BC. So about 5,000 years ago, we started, and all of a sudden we started building pyramids. We started building all these things. Nobody knows how the pyramids were really built.
How did they move multi-ton megalithic blocks?
Yeah, and I think some of those Egyptians were pretty smart, and they could probably move some of those stone blocks, which are not quite as heavy and not quite as hard to carve as some of the granite.
And basalt.
When you're talking about these huge monuments that are built with 50, 60, 100, 120 ton structures, single monolithic blocks that fit together with no mortar, then you start
and no
wondering.
Space between the blocks.
Yeah, and we can't seem to do that now, and nobody really knows how it was done. Although there are some theories.
We're getting a little far afield here.
Yeah. Okay. Go ahead.
It was quite a bit. It was very interesting because Ben's presentation was the current events, the things that have been happening in the last few weeks and months, and peer-reviewed papers that were being published, and the news, whatever the sun's been doing, and that was extremely interesting. And then Dr. Dunning also talked about the impacts of the sun on everything that goes on the earth and what was happening. And then on Sunday, Dr. Dunning talked about cosmology, which was kind of the creation of the universe and the solar system, and how the planets got started, and what the plasma ejections on the sun actually look like, and the arcing that comes because one sunspot is negative and one sunspot is positive. It was just so fascinating to listen to. Dr. Dunning is a very personable guy.
Yeah, very down to earth, easy to talk to, and really explains things well. And this is his site. He has a YouTube channel too. One of the interesting, and maybe we should go over what the 12,000 year cycle and that kind of theory, because both of the speakers were talking about this. And basically, from my point of view, is what happens is that the sun goes through these periodic
grand solar minimums and maximums,
which are 11 and 22 year cycles approximately. The sun goes and puts off all these flares, but beyond that, it goes through lots of different cycles. Like 120 years ago, we had that Carrington event.
120?
It was in the maybe less than that, maybe 100 years ago. This Carrington event, and at that time, the only electricity we really had.
We're talking about the 1800s.
Yeah, the 1800s.
So you had some telegraph poles.
Yeah, and what happened when the sunburst came out, it threw all this plasma towards the earth and grounded.
Plasma is an electrical discharge,
right?
And it hit is sort of, if you think of it like a little bit like lightning.
Well, lightning is made from plasma,
right.
for sure.
So but it came from the sun, and it hit the transformers. Not only did they blow, but they caught on fire.
Yeah,
because it was so hot.
Yeah. So this is pretty much well documented. We really haven't had much of that, but in the last week, we had some of those blackouts in Spain and Portugal and part of France.
And then there was another one in Puerto Rico.
Yeah, and nobody really seems to know, as far as the mainstream is concerned. We really don't know what happened. But
they did coincide exactly with plasma discharge that hit the earth.
Yeah, and hit actually the rock
in those spots.
Yeah, at the rock of Gibraltar, which fused everything together, and took them a while to get it back running. And of course, the theory is that this is going to be more frequent.
Yeah, well, let's back up here just for a second and get to the Younger Dryas. Approximately 12,500 years ago, the Ice Age. Before that, there was an Ice Age. And then the Ice Age ended, and all the climate on the Earth changed because of the glaciers and the snow and the ice.
And this was a dramatic event, and the theory is that this happens. And I guess we should go back to Project Nunuk, which was in 1946, 1947. They had this Army and Air Force general go up there,
Up
Major
to the
White,
Arctic.
up to the Arctic with a team. And what they were really looking for is if the Soviets were coming up across the Arctic. They were really worried about that after World War II.
Mhm.
And they started probing around, and they found this matte layer, this black matte layer. And they estimated it was about.
Well, they were taking core samples,
Right.
and at that level, there was an entire layer that looked burnt.
Right. And they figured this was at about 12,000 years ago.
Mhm.
So consequently, they went down further, and they found another one at 24, another one at 36, another one at 42,
Yeah,
all the way back to
basically
60,000, 12,000 year cycles. And now we know that there are some mini cycles also about every 3,000 years and at 6,000 years, and even maybe at 1,500 years. So
Well,
it gets a little.
we
Yeah.
also know that the north and south poles, the magnetic poles, have flipped.
Yeah, you know, when they, if you've watched some of our other shows, we've talked about the mammoths that were found in Alaska, and they're pretty
In
interesting.
Siberia.
And they were found in Siberia too. But
Mhm.
the interesting part of this is when they dissected these animals, they found the food was not digested in their stomach. So
And so they knew exactly what the food was.
yeah, because it was still fresh, kind
Flash,
of. Yeah, they had it in their
frozen.
mouth. So this thing, you know, if you think this mammoth, which is many-ton creature, was flash frozen,
And
and
how do we explain that?
yeah, it's pretty hard to explain that it's frozen that fast because even if you put it in ice, it's going to take hours and hours and hours to
Yeah,
freeze.
deep freeze, no
But
matter what.
but something happened. And also, if they were living at the North Pole or in Siberia, where the heck did they get all this vegetation
Yeah,
that
the
they need
fresh-
to eat?
Fresh flowers in their
Yeah.
stomachs, and
So the
on.
theory is that the world at that those 12,000 year cycles,
The magnetic
the
poles,
magnetic poles switch, and
they
when
moved and flipped.
yeah, the Earth's crust kind of unlocks from the sphere and moves to a different location. And we're thinking now, some of the things that they talked about is that where we are now in Colorado will be in if you
The
think where the
mirror
North Pole
image.
is now,
Mhm.
it's going to be at the equator, which means we're going to be in the southern hemisphere. And
It's gonna
we're
be
going
weird.
probably, yeah, and it's going to be approximately at the same latitude.
Right.
But the interesting part is that the Earth actually stops its rotation during that flip
For a few hours.
for maybe 4 to 6 hours, something like that. They're figuring, and of course, the water doesn't stop.
You know, the oceans keep going. So
Yeah, so then you have a huge amount of water coming over these continents. And the
Although-
theory was last time the Pacific Ocean came over North America,
Mhm.
and they're thinking or theorizing now that the Atlantic Ocean is going to come over
that
North
they
America,
alternate. When
that
this
they
happens.
alternate.
But also, I mean, there's plenty of evidence
Yes.
of this, because you have in the middle of Colorado, you have a plain that's full of seashells,
Yeah.
or you have sand dunes
Right.
that have locked as they're petrified or
Yeah.
whatever. But they found so much evidence of the fact that there were inland seas, and right now the magnetic poles are moving and have been moving since the 60s.
Yeah, and it's moving right now, or it's moving faster and faster. It's kind of goes through these cycles where they are moving faster and faster, and then kind of slow down for a little bit, and then they spring back
now,
in.
Now, that's not to say that tomorrow they're going to flip or anything like that. It's just that they are physically located a little bit further along on their path of.
Yeah, and there are other scientists. There's another scientist that we had followed for quite a number of years, Doug Vogt,
Mm-hmm.
who was a very interesting guy because he came up with the idea, and Dr. Dunning was talking about this on Sunday,
Mm-hmm.
that the Hebrew alphabet was correlated to how the torrid fields, if you ever know something about how the energy that is around the Earth, and even the toroidal field.
Shape. If you've
Yeah.
seen a picture of the
I
planets
wonder
in
if
the
I can
middle,
bring that.
see if you can find them. Planets in the middle, and the magnetic fields go out from both sides, and it almost looks like a housefly or something, you know, with the wings at the sides, and they go back in at the poles, and one goes north and one goes south, and the continuous energy of the magnetic field, and that's what protects the Earth from any kind of plasma ejections or space dust or anything that can interrupt
Yeah, I've got
the,
a little picture here of.
but that's a person.
That's a person, but it's the
It
same.
gives you the idea of what a toroid looks like.
Yeah, toroid. But even our Earth has that same toroidal field, even though you can't see it.
You can't
This, pardon me?
You couldn't find something?
Well, this is what came up, so I can
Okay.
explain it from here. So the
Mhm.
center part, if you pretend this is the Earth, it would look the same way.
Yeah. I know.
Interesting, if you look at the sun, it has that same configuration with the energy going in and then coming out the bottom
Mhm.
and the whole thing. If you look at the galaxy, the same thing.
Now, the toroidal shape seems to be the energy flow shape.
Yeah, and then now when you look at the groups of galaxies, it's kind of, this seems to be the unifying thing that is the same as above, so below kind of thing. So as it is large, it is small. So we have that field within us. The Earth has it within it. The sun has it within it. The solar system has it. And the galaxy has it in it. The groups of galaxy have it in it. And the whole universe that we can see has the same shape.
Well,
So everything's kind of connected.
It was interesting to listen to Dr. Dunn. He talked about the field around a person, that your thoughts, your memories are not stored in your brain. They're stored in your electromagnetic field.
Yeah.
And so if you've ever heard of, excuse me, if you've ever heard of somebody having a heart transplant, and having memories from the person whose heart it was, you know, things like that, that it isn't, the things are stored in the organs and they're stored in the body, but they're also, but your actual memories are stored just outside in your electric field.
Yeah, pretty interesting.
Yeah, that was something to think about.
Another thing that Dr. Dunning was interested in, or is interested in, and he has a website here. I'll put that up. You can see that. And here it is. Cytolife. And he talked a little bit about the Phoenix Protocol, which is dry fasting, how your body can reset itself. How your body can heal itself, and talking about longevity, of course.
And dry fasting means that you don't eat or drink, not even water.
Yeah, and the reason being is when you use water, it can't reset. So the fact that you're
what can't reset?
Well, your body can't reset and start the process of cleansing and apogee is what they call it, I think. But also, when you're using water, your body, because it's hungry, will start to use the energy from your muscles. So your muscles start deteriorating. So if you're using dry fasting, that doesn't happen. So you're getting rid of all the waste instead of your body trying
cleansing.
It's a cleansing thing. So, of course, the way we eat, we have a long period of about 16 hours.
It's called intermittent fasting.
Yeah, and because we only eat twice a day and we do it in a small period of time, we have a long period of time where we don't eat or drink, and that helps the anti-aging and helps your body rejuvenate itself. So, you know, it goes along with a lot of things that we've already been doing. So, yeah, that was pretty fascinating too. So you can look into that. We've included in our show notes all these links to his products and the types of things.
He's written a couple of books, and he's on his Dr. Dunning's just published his third book.
Yeah. Yeah. So. He talks about the Phoenix Protocol here also. I can show some of that. I think most of it's typing. And he talks about neogenesis.
That's the process.
In the process of turning back time, both genetically and physically, by restoring youthful metabolism during adulthood. It's the second book on radical life extension. Pretty interesting stuff, and something that we've been following, and something that we agree with.
Well, I think the weekend was noteworthy for a couple of things. One, it was just very nice to sit in a room with 48 other people and listen to an intellectual scientific discussion that was based on heavy duty research and science.
And the quality of the people and the intelligence of the people were
The
quite
backgrounds
astonishing.
of the audience.
Yeah, and there was only about 30 to 40 people there.
There were 50.
There was 50? Okay.
That's why I said 48 others.
Okay. We met people from different countries that came to see
Yeah,
this.
one couple came from Andorra, which is between Spain and Portugal.
Yeah, in fact, they stopped us because they knew I did jujitsu, and he had started jujitsu about 2 years ago. And she stopped me in the hallway. Oh, I want you to meet my husband. And, Pierre
just
was
very,
his name.
very nice.
Yeah.
Very, very nice people. Very friendly, very open, wanting to talk to you.
Yeah.
You know, nobody was feeling awkward.
No.
And we met a lady, coincidentally, who's opening a Buddhist meditation retreat
In
in Pagosa Springs,
Yeah.
which is 1 hour away from us. And
Very fascinating. She definitely was Buddhist. Had her hair head shaved. And,
well, she was Buddhist.
Yeah.
You know, whatever.
Yeah.
She and she had an advanced degree in physics.
Yeah.
And you know, people in that room were very much aware of and asking questions about all the processes and the way that the sun works and so on and so on. So it was very interesting, and so it was, for me, it was a pleasure to be immersed in intellectual discussion for a change. Not to say that our friends are not interesting, but certainly having a conversation about this stuff is very, very interesting.
Yeah, we could have really stayed there for days. It was good. The thing about the Observer Ranch that's cool, you can stay there. You can do your own thing. They have different workshops for children, for yourself, classes on
demonstrations.
Demonstrations about all different kinds of things, how to survive.
And they also are providing resources for the local schools. They're providing field trips for the local schools. They're affiliated with a number of different groups, including a rocketry company.
Yeah, here they have a Mom's Craft Weekend that's coming up.
We have mini conferences on space weather and on the cycle.
Yeah, that one's this weekend, actually.
Yeah, May 17th.
Yeah, they have a space weather conference coming up in June 17th. They have one on permaculture, the introduction to permaculture. Some mom support meetings. So a lot of things coming up. Very, very interesting. I would recommend checking out their site. Go to the next one here.
And you don't have to stay at the ranch, obviously, if you don't. You know, we stay at the Best Western in Canyon City, which is literally 5 minutes from the ranch.
Yeah, here they have a rocket launch coming up on 6/20/25. Blacksmith and welding for beginners. So this is definitely an education.
Backpacking, wilderness first aid, just even if you're an avocational hiker or camper, this is good stuff.
Technical training. So
Tactical.
This is a lot tactical training. So this is some self-defense things. They had invited me to do a jiu-jitsu thing there, and that's probably going to come in the future sometime. And they have, of course, always rocket launches
and
things like that.
And you put together your own rocket.
Yeah, they have the kids doing that. Remember when we were there the last time? So that was really fascinating too. Talk a little bit about the information on the website of
this is spaceweather.com.
Yeah, Space Weather News.
Space Weather News.
Yeah, so he has lots and lots. So this is what Ben calls homework. So there's 3 sections to the next disaster. how the world turns over, Earth's rotational changes, rare cosmological events, cosmic disasters again, Earth disasters, falling into a storm. So on and on and on. You can
Yeah, you
look
could-
at these things at your own speed and figure out what the heck Ben is talking about and how these things
There's a
affect-
6,000-year cycle.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
how
And
Mars. So how they know this is happening is, so from the center of the galaxy, apparently the whatever mechanism is at the center, it kind of throws out this dust cloud.
What do they call it? Space dust?
Yeah, and they throw out this dust cloud, and it starts reaching different solar systems. So in our solar system, they've already noticed changes at the far edge of the planets. So Neptune,
Changes in
Saturn,
those planets.
yeah, and Jupiter. So they've noticed changes in them, and they think it is because of this current sheet that's coming in
I think
waves.
the galactic current.
The galactic current sheet. Yeah, that's what they're calling it.
Mhm.
And when that hits the sun, it prompts the sun to throw off its own shell. So when I was a kid, I remember, and until I was a teenager, the sun was yellow.
Mhm.
The sun has been getting brighter, and I think
Whiter.
more whiter. Yeah,
Mhm.
and this is due to the rotational
Rotation.
rotation of how our the Earth goes around the planet. It's not a circular orbit; it's an oblong type of orbit.
Mhm.
So,
But
and it goes
also-
through a 26,000 year cycle, and it gets closer to the sun and gets farther from the sun. It's not really us and gasoline that's doing it, although
No.
we don't, I mean, pollution is not good for the Earth for sure.
Mhm.
We've got to find ways of reducing our pollution. But what's actually causing the weather is the sun. It has to be, because just go under a tree when the sun is bright, you'll notice the change immediately. So just that,
Change of what? Temperature?
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so just that small change of stepping into the shade
Mhm.
is a huge difference. Imagine if there's dust and things in the air. And
Yeah, but Dr. Dunning also talked about the fact that sometimes the dust clumps together, kind of.
yeah,
And then with the electrical discharges and everything else, it fuses into, creates a new star.
yeah,
Or it was very interesting.
yeah. And of course, the what we have is around the Earth is a protection, which is
Well, that's what I was going to say. The sun looks white also because our electromagnetic field, the magnetosphere around the Earth, is very weak right now.
yeah,
And what happens normally in the course of events, when the plasma discharges and the coronal mass ejections and whatever hit the magnetosphere, it strengthens it. But there's also cycles in the magnetosphere. So right now the cycle is that the magnetosphere is quite a bit more weak. And Dr. Dunning also talked about the fact that as soon as the astronauts go out into space without the protection at all of the magnetosphere, they're exposed to serious radiation.
yeah.
And he talked about things that they're working on to try and insulate the spacecraft from the radiation.
Yeah, so here is the scientific image of these disasters and they have names for these. So these were not named by Ben or Dr. August Dunning. These were named by the scientists that are studying this.
And some of them, yeah.
Yeah, so the last was the Gothenburg cycle. That was 12,000 years ago. We know that as the Younger Dryas event.
Mhm.
Before that, about another 12,000 years or so, Lake Mungo. 36,000 years, Mono Lake. 47,000 years, Lachamp. 60,000 years, Vostek. 72 was
Toba.
Toba.
Mhm.
So these events are
And they're documented by evidence on the planet and
Yeah.
in the geology and in the
yeah, here they have the biosphere stresses, megafauna, extinction, all these different things. So lots of disasters have happened on Earth, and they've happened over a pretty regular period of time. And there's even some mini ones that they talk about on here. But yeah, it's pretty interesting stuff. Anything else you got for this?
No. There you go. Now I can see it better.
Yeah.
And you can see that, the 12,000 years ago, it was, they've got the middle category is volcanic candidates. And so that's where you might expect volcanic activity as a result of the disaster cycle. Like Le Champ was in Russia and Japan.
Let's see. How do I get back? Oops.
There you go.
Okay. It's all new to me, folks. I guess escape maybe.
And space. Maybe, well, go back and click on the picture and see what happens. No, over here.
Yeah.
Can't get over there?
No.
Yeah, you can. There you go.
Anyway. Oh, here we go. There we go. We're back. I'll figure this out someday. I'm not sure. Amateurs. Anyway, that's pretty much it. Anything else you want to go over to?
No, I'm just saying that, when you have an opportunity to participate in something like this, it's really a special event. And we're fortunate that we're able to do that and that we have exposure to it. And and Dr. Dunning also talked a lot about the megalithic blocks and pyramids and how they might have been built and how they work and so on. And there's a lot going on in archaeology, in cosmology, in science, such as it is.
Yeah, I think the evidence of the cycle before, in other words, what were our ancient ancestors really doing? And Dr. Dunning and many, many scientists that are talking about this are pretty well convinced that the Egyptian pyramids and a lot of these huge megalithic structures are not from our.
Well, they weren't built by our immediate ancestors in the last 5,000 years.
They were built by somebody else. So another human or who knows what, but in a cycle before us, maybe as far back as 50 or 60,000 years ago.
Yeah, and then the next generation of folks came along and found them.
Right, and started using them and or adding to them. And if you look at photos of, for example, the Peruvian ruins, you'll see the different, you'll see the megalithic blocks on the bottom, and then you'll see the small stones on top of that. You'll see evidence of repairs. It's pretty interesting stuff. Yeah, so we really don't know what the heck our past is like and how our Earth was really formed, how far the dinosaurs or a lot of these large creatures. We know that the megafauna, these huge elephant type mastodons and things were here 14,000 years ago. In fact, there's an island in the Arctic near Siberia that we have evidence that they were still alive maybe 3,500 years ago, just located on that particular island. But we know that in Alaska and in Siberia, we found them and they were living 15,000 years ago and before that. Who knows what went on? Who knows how smart? We came along from about 3,500 BC to now and have the technology we have today. And 12,000 years is a huge span of time for smart human beings or other species to figure things out and build things. And I kind of think that that's who built all those monuments. and
Well,
things.
we'll, little by little, information is coming
Yeah, we'll
out.
find out.
It's-
And the exciting part is that the 12,000 year cycle is close at hand. So I think that's the last thing we should talk about is that it's due in the next 20 to 30
Well,
years.
first of all,
Dr. Dunning says maybe 21 years. But what happens before?
The magnetic flip is definitely in progress.
Yeah.
And it will be very interesting. And now it may happen in our lifetime. It may not.
I think that's why we're here. That's my personal opinion. I'm here to see it, and I'm excited for it because if things are going to start over, I want to be part of that. I don't care if I'm 90 years old or 130 years old. I still want to be here. So that's why we're on this health kick. When I started investigating this stuff many years ago, I just decided I want to be healthy for this. I don't want to be somebody that dies in this event. One of the reasons we moved to high latitude,
7,000 feet,
7,000 feet
on the back range.
on the back range is to be here. So we've always been cognizant of that ever since we met Ben. And now with Dr. Dunning behind him also on this journey, it's and many other scientists. There was Anthony Peratt, and there was another conference. Pierre Robitaille, yeah, that spoke a few weeks ago at the grand opening. So, and these are people that work for NASA, gone to these huge Harvard University, Caltech, and things. So these are smart people that have been figuring this out, and this is how Ben got involved in this.
What I was starting to say was that the magnetic poles are moving. And it's already affecting our planet because you have quite a number of animals that rely upon the magnetic pole for guidance and for migrations and for seasonal changes. And so already we're seeing changes in that and difficulties for the animals. There's a lot of evidence that has to do with these plasma visits to the earth that affect and the magnetic changes affect human bodies and minds and emotions and mental issues and cardiac issues. And there's just a lot going on right now. So we don't know what's going to happen. What are you looking for?
I'm looking for the pole shift information. There it is.
There
Right
it
there.
is.
First, the magnetic North Pole is currently shifting rapidly towards Siberia. There's a picture of it here.
While this movement can impact navigation and require updates to magnetic field models, it doesn't necessarily mean an imminent pole reversal. Pole reversals, where the north and south magnetic poles flip, are rare events, typically occurring every few 100,000 to 1 million years, and are not fully understood or predictable, it says, according to AI overview in Google. But they're definitely shifting, and there's a lot of scientists looking at the we're talking, there is still a geographic North Pole and South Pole.
Yeah, so here you can see the movement between 2000 2010 was really large, and then
it took a long time.
Took a long
10
time.
years.
Now it's slowing down a little bit, and they think the next part is going to be really speeding up, where it's going to be in Siberia, and where it's moving to is supposed to be in the Bay of Bengal, which is just outside of India, and then the South Pole is supposed to move just offshore of Ecuador.
Yeah, so
you can see if you look at a globe and tip it over, you're going to see the North and South Pole are going to be at the equator.
At the equator.
So there's going to be certain continents that are going to be already at the North Pole, and it's going to get very cold. So but probably not a good place to be.
It's also that geographically, for example, we're in Colorado. So when the poles shift, then we would be below the equator, this equidistant, and we would be set. Then Christmas in December would be in the 80s, and it'll be summertime.
Yeah.
So be interesting.
Yeah. So a lot of information in the links that we set below the show notes. So take a look at that. Do your own research. We should end with the calculation that Ben gave us.
If you're, what is it, miles from the ocean?
Yeah. What do you do? You take the height, elevation
Where you are,
and add the miles away from the sea.
the sea.
So we're approximately 1,000 miles from the Pacific, and about 2,500 miles.
7,500 feet above sea level.
Yeah. So if you're above 4,500,
5,000.
between 4,000 and 5,000 foot elevation, plus whatever.
Oh, if your total numbers added together are 5,000 or
pretty,
more.
Yeah, you're pretty safe. But if you're below that, the water is going to get you. You better have something to float. And of course, the other thing is that Ben mentioned is that if you're in a place where there's no electricity and no shopping, no
resources, no civilization resources,
right? Can you survive? And of course, large cities pretty much.
Well, his recommendation is avoid a large city, because obviously there's too many people and too much potential for violence and fear,
and resources are going to be scarce, and you probably won't find any animals except dogs and cats in those areas, right?
Yeah.
Unless
you go to the zoo.
Yeah. So we're here in Durango. That's one of the reasons we're here, for sure. It's a good place to be. And so, he explains all this in a lot of his
and
videos,
there's no way to know when this is going to happen.
No, but one thing for sure, before the pole flip, is the electricity will probably go out.
Yeah, at least for a while.
Yeah, maybe 10 years before.
Again. Yeah.
So can you survive?
And there's a difference between the pole shift and the mini nova from the sun.
Well, the mini nova kind of makes the pole shift, in a sense. They're very much related to that.
Well, but they have different impact on the Earth.
Yeah, for sure. Well, the first thing that comes is the lights go out because of the plasma, because our magnetic field is very, very weak.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the sun starts putting out stuff that we don't like, and
just think about what life would be like without electricity.
Yeah.
No heat, no air conditioning.
Yeah, only 150 years ago, that's what it was like.
Yeah, no telephone. No.
And what are your skills to survive? Can you go hunting? Do you have things to go hunting with? And do you have a community that you can gather together of 30, 40, maybe 100 people that are like-minded instead of,
well, at least supporting each other. Right?
Yeah, exactly. So that's kind of what you want to look for. Do your own research and support the ranch right here. I mean, it's a fun thing to go to, and you learn a lot, and we're very involved in this. And if you have any questions or anything, we'll try to steer you in the right direction. Anyway, that's pretty much the show.
Anyway, we're not trying to scare you.
No.
And we're not trying to preach doom and gloom. And we're not suggesting you become a prepper in the quote unquote.
I recommend you do.
No, we're not suggesting that you become the mainstream prepper.
It's true.
But we are saying these things are going on, and they are scientifically, geographically, geologically, and so on proven. And it's interesting to know about. You should know about it.
Yeah, we just want to kind of introduce you to it. We've spoken several times about it on our show, but this was a big event, and now you have some resources you can actually go to, do your own research, and figure it out for yourself, because you're going to have to survive if you want to survive. Some people will probably not want to, but that's okay too.
Okay.
All right. That's it. Thanks for sticking around.
Be well and stay calm.
Bye-bye.